So there was this rumor thrown out there that the Sixers might look to move the number 3 overall pick along with a guy like Paul George to potentially go after a guy like Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen, pull him out of Utah, pull Kevin Durant out of Phoenix. And so Jeremy Woo was the one who brought this up, works over at ESPN. Jeremy Woo, not related, at least to my knowledge, to Shelby Woo, of course, made famous by the show, The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. We'll see how many people in the comments understood that reference. I'm assuming it's going to be more than I expected. But anyway, we'll throw over to the quote from Jeremy Woo about a Paul George for Kevin Durant deal. This was earlier this week, and it's been since kind of shot down as being legit or valid. But Jeremy Woo reported some teams expect the Sixers to be active in trade conversations with names such as Kevin Durant and packages that could include Paul George and the number 3 pick. And so that got me wondering, would that do anything for you if you are a Sixers fan? Like, take a lot of the other stuff out of it, right? There's obviously a lot of discourse about, like, if Ace Bailey is going to be a really good NBA player. Could he be an impact player right away? Could he develop into an impact player 2-3 years down the line? Should the Sixers start to look to build that next core, knowing that Paul George has a lot of injuries, bad injury history. Joel Embiid, obviously bad injury history. Should they look to just draft Ace Bailey, have a guy who can stretch the floor, have a guy that can maybe develop into an elite scorer, have him to go with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, some other young up-and-coming guys? Do you just kind of build the team around them and take any positive contributions you can get from Paul George and Joel Embiid in the upcoming season and see where that team takes you? That's what I would do. I would. But if you aren't sold on the idea of Ace Bailey, and you're not sold on the idea of anybody, and you just say, you know what? That number 3 pick, we don't think is really that valuable. It's great that we got it, but now we're going to use it as a bargaining chip. And you could get out from under the Paul George contract, and you could bring in a Lauri Markkanen. I don't think that's worth it. Lauri Markkanen is a much better player than anybody thought he was going to be, but like that doesn't move the needle for me. Does Kevin Durant move the needle? I mean, it would certainly get people talking, but Kevin Durant hasn't exactly been a wild success in Phoenix, or at least building the team around Kevin Durant being brought in, Bradley Beal, horrible. Bradley Beal being brought in, and of course, building around Devin Booker. That trio, that big 3 has not worked out. All of that in mind, Durant hasn't exactly slowed down. Durant still averaged almost 27 points per game this year. He's 36 years old. He'll be 37 by the time the next season begins. Does he do enough for you to make you think about trading that number 3 overall pick? To me, it all just kind of comes down to, what do you value window-wise? Daryl Morey certainly would consider it. Why? Because Daryl Morey wants to save his job. That's the most important thing for Daryl Morey. It probably, in fairness, it probably should be the thing that he cares the most about. But like Daryl Morey wanting to save his job, do you have a better chance of winning games with Kevin Durant than Paul George? The answer is yes. Do you have a better chance of Kevin Durant playing more games than Paul George each and every season? Probably. I mean, it's also worth noting that like there were some years in Brooklyn, Durant was hurt. It didn't work out. I mean, since the Achilles tear, he's only really had one season where he's gone 70 games or more. It was like 2 years ago with Phoenix. There have been a bunch of seasons where he hasn't played nearly as much. He played 62 games last year. The production is still really high. He's still a very good player. Could a Tyrese Maxey, Kevin Durant, Jared McCain, Joel Embiid lineup and plug in whoever you want as a Kelly Oubre, who is it? Could that team be a contender in the Eastern Conference? The answer is yes, because the Eastern Conference is kind of a mess. Giannis might end up leaving Milwaukee, might end up forcing his way out. 2 of the teams that make the most sense are like Houston and San Antonio. And if that happens, Milwaukee's going to be a worse team. You know that the Knicks are going to remain in the mix here for the next few years. You know that Boston is going to remain sort of in the mix, although without Tatum, it does change the calculus on at least next season for them. And Achilles tears are weird, man. Like, There's no guarantee Tatum gets back to the player that he was. Like, there's an opening here. In theory, there could be an opening if you're the Sixers. But if you want to go all in on this little window with Joel Embiid, then yeah, Durant's a really good pickup. And if it costs you the third pick, that sucks. And I'm not sure it's a great idea, but Durant does make you better. And I would certainly want to roll the dice more with Durant than I would Paul George. But Daryl Morey has come out and said they are going to build around Paul George and they're going to build around Joel Embiid. And the assumption here is that they're going to build around Tyrese Maxey, but who the hell knows? Now, if it were me, I'm fine with them keeping Paul George. I'm fine with them trying to believe in Joel Embiid again. But that number 3 pick to me should probably be used. And you should be able to kind of run 2 plans here. Develop the young guys. Hope that Paul George can be like a 20-point-per-game guy. Pull down 8-9 rebounds a night. Give you 4 assists or so. That Joel Embiid could come back and maybe he's not the number 1 option. Maybe Joel Embiid just becomes like a 20, 25 point per night kind of scorer. Can still pull down double-digit rebounds. Can still block a few shots. But isn't the focal point of the offense. Maybe you don't have one stone-cold killer. Maybe you don't have the guy that Jimmy Butler was in a very short run for this Sixers team. Maybe you don't have the James Harden that, took over a game against the Celtics in the playoffs when Embiid was out. Like, maybe you don't have that guy. And maybe it is like you don't know who's going to be the closer down the stretch. I'd like to see Tyrese Maxey develop into being that guy who has the ball in his hands at the end of the game and becomes the guy who wins you a bunch of games. That would be great. But, like, why would you pass up on the opportunity to have another window and, like, a very long potential window by using that number 3 overall pick and instead, like, packaging it just to get off the Paul George contract? Like, I don't know. Raymond Sepper says, Jolly opened a can of whoop-ass on Spike and Daryl Morey as a sports talk classic. I heard some of what Jolovich said, and I almost never agree with the guy. But, like, he did a whole thing about how Daryl Morey's won nothing. And that's true. And, like, I'm sorry. Daryl Morey might have only ever had, like, 1 season as an executive where he missed the playoffs. I don't give a shit that Daryl Morey's only ever missed the playoffs 1 time as an executive. You know why? Daryl Morey's never gotten close to sniffing the NBA Finals. Daryl Morey's never had a team make the NBA Finals. Daryl Morey's never had a team win the NBA Finals. I don't know if you know this or not. But in order for you to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy, you have to win the NBA Finals. But in order to win the NBA Finals, you have to get to the NBA Finals. I don't care if Daryl Morey's had a bunch of games. I don't care if Daryl Morey's had a bunch of games where it's like, oh, this is great. It was another great season. Oh, it was another great James Harden year. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I could not give less of a shit about Daryl Morey's career accomplishments. I do not care. What I care about as a normal, somewhat well-adjusted individual is I care about whether or not this guy is going to be capable of getting this team to an NBA Finals. And if he can't, guess what? He's dead to me. I don't care. I don't need his CV on my desk. I don't care. Get to the finals. Win a finals. Otherwise, I don't care about your success.